As a husband, father, and longtime community leader, State Representative Jaime Andrade came from humble beginnings to become Assistant Democratic Majority Leader of the Illinois House of Representatives. A founding board member of the Cardinal Bernardin Early Childhood Center School, Representative Andrade has a passion for learning himself that has led him to pursue multiple degrees, including a B.S.B. in Accountancy from DePaul University, a Master's of Science from Driehaus College of Business, as well as postgraduate studies at DePaul University. Before becoming a state legislator, Andrade worked on ethics reform legislation as legislative aide for the Chicago City Council's Committee on Rules and Ethics. So, Representative, thank you very much for joining us here today. You have had a long career in public service and advocacy. Can you tell us about your journey to becoming the first Ecuadorian in the Illinois General Assembly?
Thank you, Treasurer, and thank you for the honor. It started actually all the way going back to Cub Scouts. I met Jane Byrne when I was a Cub Scout, and then going to church with my mom and volunteering. And then I think one of the pivotal points was when I was able to apply for a summer job that was for low-income students. And there is where I worked for the city of Chicago and met aldermen and commissioners. And I was asked to volunteer for my first campaign. And that is where I got the bug for politics after I worked on my first campaign. And that was actually, I worked on a candidate against, can't remember what her name was because she lost, but that is where I began, is through a summer job. And that is what was giving me the opportunity to meet people. And once that summer job became into a full-time job working for an alderman for 17 years, and the opportunity arose that a state rep position opened up, and they asked me if I would like to be considered to be appointed. And that I said yes, and that was August of 2013. And now I am going into my eighth year, and now I am Assistant House Majority Leader.
Well, that is quite the path. You know, Representative, one of the things I enjoy about representing the state of Illinois is the diversity of our state. And when I look at your district, from Eastern Europe to Latin America, you represent a highly diverse legislative district. And I know that you've made it a priority to connect with the many communities of the 40th district. From your perspective, why is this so important to you?
Every one of those immigrants reminds me of my parents. They were my parents. And so it is my duty, and it is as a public servant, to serve everyone. There is no asterisks in constituents. We serve everyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, status of immigration, or anything. So that is why it is my priority to make sure that I serve everyone, because every one of those constituents now, one day were my parents, and it was from a diverse neighborhood. And so I treat everyone as if they could be my sister, brother, family, or my parents. And I just want them not to have to go through the struggles that previous immigrants and previous residents have gone through. So that is why it is my priority, because I treat everyone as if they were family.
I appreciate that. Your positions may look different, but they have a lot more in common if you're willing to scratch past the surface.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the great things about having a legislative body like the General Assembly is you get people from different backgrounds. And different people from different backgrounds have different priorities. In addition to being a leader in the House, you also are a chairperson of the Committee on Cybersecurity, Data Analytics, and IT. Now, that's a committee that you helped to create. So why did you think the Illinois General Assembly needed to create this committee?
Well, when I first started and first became a chairperson, I was also a student at DePaul, and I was learning about big data, data analytics, cybersecurity. I was going to become an electrical engineer, but I ended up being an accountant as profession, and everything. And I thought, once I looked at the committees, and I could not believe that we did not have a cybersecurity or an IT committee in the state of Illinois in the House. And I thought that with all the data that we have all of the information of our constituents and our residents. It was vital that our state built a new infrastructure, because the infrastructure that we had previously was just outdated. We had different platforms. It was vulnerable. And as you saw, just recently, one of our agencies and executive branches got hit by ransomware. There's cities and states that have been shut down. Literally, Atlanta got shut down. They shut down an electric grid in a other state, and I knew we needed to upgrade our operating system and our enterprise system that we're working on right now. And I thought, why better to do it now? And here, one of the legislation pieces I passed was regarding having our auditor general be able to look at IT practices in departments. And I didn't even realize this until I went to a conference, Treasurer, that they were talking about artificial intelligence legislation, that Illinois passed the first bill. And I asked Microsoft, I said, who was the sponsor of that? They said, sir, you were. So the Artificial Intelligence Interview Act. So it's been quite a journey, and state of Illinois has one of the strongest BIPA rules around regarding protecting our data privacy, and so I think it was important to move ahead. And right now, we just passed another bill that protects our constituents by saying that if you use artificial intelligence, then if that's the only factor you use for hiring, that we must make sure to keep track of who gets hired and who doesn't get hired, just to make sure there's no bias in the artificial intelligence formula.
Great. One of the things I frequently hear about you is your hard work, but also your constituent service. I assume that your experience working for an alderman has been helpful with that. Maybe elaborate a little more. How has your experience as a former Chicago City Council staffer helped prepare for life in Springfield? Because although they're both government bodies, they're also different.
Yes, and I think the way it has most been able to help me prepare for this position is that I have converted my state rep office more into a constituent service office. There's a Chicago office and there's a Springfield office. And my Chicago office, what I've done, my regional office has become a ward, basically service place. We provide services on the level of federal government, state government, county government, city, municipal government, and we are an ombudsman's office for all other offices. And policy-wise, the way the city council office has been able to, as a staffer, been able to prepare me, was there was no Democrats, there was no Republicans. All there was members. And being a staffer, I helped pass legislation. So I didn't look at it as we just needed, 26 votes, but we always try to pass more. And that has crossed over into passing bills in the General Assembly. I don't look at Democrats. I don't look at them as Republicans. I just look at them as my colleagues. And I've been able to pass a lot of legislation with bipartisan support. My committee was run that way also. My committee, there was not one bill that did not pass without support of Republicans and Democrats. And I thought it was necessary to make sure that we make an inclusive committee and an inclusive state, because any bill that's passed affects all of Illinois, not just Democrats or Republicans. So I think that was the biggest thing. And as you know, I've become a little infamous based on, I helped clean up the pigeon stuff in our blue line, and I even reached worldwide fame because I was doing an interview. Thank God we're not outside, because one of the pigeons came right on me. I dropped the load. So.
Well, that just goes to your hard work, your being out there working for your constituents. For those who are watching, who maybe see a little bit of themselves in you, who wonder maybe they want to go this route, any words of wisdom you'd like to leave our visitors with?
Yes.
So individuals who might want to follow in your footsteps and be agents of change.
So I think the most important part is to volunteer in stuff that you love. Volunteer, don't think of just getting paid. And that's how I've begun. I started volunteering. And don't be discouraged if you fail or when you fail, because you will fail. But that is just a learning process. And you don't need a connection. You don't need anyone. You don't, my parents were immigrants as yours, and look where we're at now. So don't get discouraged. Don't believe there. Just, if you believe in something, go and try it and volunteer and just knock on that door and open it. If they won't open it, push it open. And I think that's what's the most important part. People have to realize that anyone can be in this position. You know, I could not believe that I was sitting in the General Assembly as son of immigrants and now a House Majority Leader, that the President of the United States was there giving a speech. Who would have thought back in the day that my mom literally folded underwear in the factory, my dad worked at Zenith, that I would become a assistant House Majority Leader. So I think it's possible for anyone to lead and hold office, as long as you believe in yourself and are willing to get up. If you fail, you just have to get up again, and that is just use those as learning experiences.
I think that is so true about failure, but I like to tell my daughter that in basketball games or other sports, there's winners and losers, but in life, you don't win or lose. You win or you learn.
That's right.
We learn from our experiences. Those failures are temporary. They are life lessons, and it looks like you have risen to great heights. I want to commend you for receiving this award from our office for your contributions to the elected office, and I look forward to working with you for many more years to come.
Absolutely. And it's always my pleasure to carry your legislation. I've done before. We carried the Patriot Bill Act. You know, so it's looking forward to always help you out and help out our constituents out. Thank you again for this honor.
Great. Representative, thank you. Look forward to seeing you in veto session.